Back with another live stream. Sorry for being late, but we'll get right into it. And today's topic is adverbs of degree, as you can see all the way over there on the board. But before we start, why don't you guys click the link on this banner right here down below. You should be able to download a ebook with 2,000 core English words, and this will be great and very useful for anyone who would like to check that out. So you can also see on the side there is the download button, so please feel free to click this banner and that will bring you to the download. Okay, so back to the topic of today, which is adverbs of degree. So what these do is, as you can see right here, they tell us about the intensity of something. So before we start, I just wanted to say hi to a bunch of the people who are joining us. I see someone's joining from California. I see someone from, I guess, a previous stream. And, ooh, it's evening for some of you. It's morning here, but evening for some of you. Someone asked, where am I from? I am from the USA. Okay, so back to the topic. Adverbs of degree tell us about the intensity of something. And generally, they are placed before the adjective, adverb, or the verb that they modify. So, for example, when they're placed before the main verb, here's a sentence. The game is almost finished. So finished, that's the main verb. So almost finished. That means maybe it's not exactly finished yet. It's close to being finished. So that would be before the main verb that it modifies. Then we have an example where it is placed before the adjective. So for example, you can have a sentence, you might say, oh, she is thin. But now we add the adverb of degree. She is very thin. Okay, and the last example right here is when you place it before the adverb. So the adverb here is slowly. For example, you might say, oh, he ran slowly, or he runs slowly. And here is the adverb of degree. He ran quite slowly. So there's a lot more information here that we will get into as the stream goes on. But if you have any questions, you can also feel free to type that into the comments. And if you have any examples that you would like to also share or give, please feel free to type those into the comments as well. Okay, so when we talk about adverbs of degree, we can break them down into three main categories. So we have something that we call intensifiers. Then we have moderators. And we have mitigators. So we'll go over each one of these one by one. So the first one that we have is intensifiers. And if you guys have, again, any questions, I see more people are joining into the stream. Someone from Germany, India, wow, Argentina, all over the globe, Nepal. Okay, so the first one, intensifiers. If you can kind of, I guess, get from the name itself, it adds an emphasis or intensifies, adds intensity. So it makes something more forceful, stronger. And some examples would be very, extremely, to. You can even have something like completely, totally. And here's a sentence. That jacket looks very expensive. So here, maybe there's a jacket and it's expensive. We might say that jacket looks expensive. But to add emphasis, we can put the adverb very. That jacket looks very expensive. or that jacket looks extremely expensive. Maybe you might be walking down the street and you see a very attractive looking guy. Maybe you might think to yourself, oh, he's really handsome, or he looks quite handsome. Okay, so the quite would be a moderator, which we will get into later. But if you wanted to say he is very extremely, you can say he is absolutely stunning. Something like that would work as well. So that adds emphasis, intensity. And quite. Oh, yes, I see some of you say quite expensive. So yes, that will be the next part, which is the moderator, which is, or a mitigator. You can actually use that for both. But first we have the moderator, which is relative based on the speaker's own opinion. So for example, you can have quite, fairly, this, that. And this and that maybe might be a little bit confusing, so I put down 2 examples to explain these. So for this, maybe you are talking about waiting in line. He didn't expect to wait this long. So that means the line is long, but to the speaker's own opinion, it is this long. So he didn't expect to wait this long. Or maybe, like I was talking before about an attractive man, there might be a very pretty young woman and someone's like, oh wow, she's so pretty. And another person comes up and says, from their own opinion, she's not that pretty. So this is what that specific person's opinion is, that maybe she's pretty, but not to the extent, to the intensity that the first person was saying. So the first person might have been, she's extremely gorgeous. And then the second person goes, she's okay, but she's not that pretty. So that's how you would use it as a moderator. Okay, and I see a lot of people who are joining from India. I've never been, but maybe one day. I also see someone from Hungary. Oh, wow. Definitely would like to go there. That's definitely on my list of places to travel to. Okay. And someone from Pakistan and Nepal, Brazil. I'm glad you guys are all able to join, and I'm not sure what time it is for you, but good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it may be. Okay. So now that we talked about intensifiers and moderators, the last category that we have right here on the board is mitigators. And you can see that when you think of to mitigate, that means maybe to relieve, to alleviate something. So it has the opposite effect of what an intensifier has. So intensifier is to add emphasis, to add intensity. A mitigator is, on the other hand, to make words less intense or less forceful, less strong. So reducing the emphasis of something. And some examples would be rather, somewhat, slightly, a bit, quite. And someone gave out a really great example in the comments, quite expensive. So expensive is something that you would describe. It's an adjective to describe something. But if you want to mitigate that, so maybe it's expensive, but not the most expensive, that's when you would use quite. So quite expensive. So that could be another one in this category. And the examples that I have on the board, for example, the first one, I'm slightly annoyed. So maybe you're annoyed, but it's not too big of a deal, so you're kind of just on the fence about it, but you're still not feeling great, but it's not the end of the world. So you might say, I'm slightly annoyed. Versus if you were very annoyed, that's adding the intensity and adding emphasis. So I'm extremely annoyed. I'm completely frustrated. So that's the emphasis. Okay, and then the second example we have for mitigator is the test was rather difficult. So the test was difficult, but you are not saying that it's the most difficult and it's not intensely difficult. So maybe you might say it was rather difficult. Oh yes, and I see a lot of people are putting in some of their input that I'm fairly annoyed like that. Yes, fairly or somewhat. Yes, is good for the annoyed sense. Yes, very. So maybe if you want to tell a friend that you're annoyed at them, but you don't want them to feel really bad about it, you might say, oh, I'm somewhat annoyed. I'm fairly annoyed. I'm slightly annoyed. Okay. And, ooh, someone from the East Coast. That's great, because actually I'm from the East Coast, originally anyway. Okay, so now that we've gone over intensifiers, moderators, and mitigators, these are the main adverbs of degree. But there are some additional points that could be mentioned. So first, in the intensifier, to was listed as one of them. So that's to add emphasis. But to can also be used in the way where it means also. And that usually will go at the end of the phrase. So in the case where it's an intensifier, to would go before. But when it means also, then it goes at the end. So the example that I have right here, it's a little bit small, I know, but I'll read it out to you guys, and hopefully, yes, maybe you guys can see as it gets zoomed in. So the first one says, may I have a cup of water too? So that means also. Maybe you're visiting someone with your friend, and the guest or the host actually brings out a cup of water for your friend, then you're kind of feeling a little jealous. You're like, may I have a cup of water too? And the second example that I have, I'm not going to clean your room too. So maybe you and your sibling are both cleaning your room. You finish cleaning your own room. Your sibling's like, can you help me out? You're like, nah, I'm not going to clean your room too. So I'm not also going to clean your room. And then to, meaning excessively, which is also an intensifier, goes before the adverb or adjective. So the example that I have written right here is, this coffee is too hot. So for example, maybe you don't like your coffee very hot, or it's difficult to drink, of course, when it's, scalding hot. So then you might say, this coffee is too hot. You can also say, to extend this sentence, this coffee is too hot for me to drink. So for something, or in the second example that I have, isn't she too young? So maybe you can say, isn't she too young to be a teacher? Or isn't she too young to be in college? So then you can also say, isn't she too young for you? Maybe if you're talking about someone dating somebody. And the last example that I have where to is used to mean excessively. You play too many video games. So maybe this is something parents might say to their kids. Maybe if someone's son is constantly gaming or on their screens, then the mom might be like, you play too many video games. So that's where you would use to mean excessively. And I can see that some people are also sharing some examples on YouTube, and there are also people joining from Facebook. I can see that as well. Yes, there are new faces, new people joining, and I'm glad that you can all join this stream. Someone from Mexico, a good evening to you. From Colombia, from Jordan. Oh, wow. I've definitely never been, but that is on my list as well. Thailand, Australia, Vietnam, from Haiti. Oh, wow, this is a very, very international group we have today. From Laos, good morning to you. Good morning to those from Thailand. I've actually been to Thailand before, loved it there, would like to go back. I see a lot of emojis, that's really cute. Someone put, I think, like the heart emoji, this little finger heart emoji. Someone from Iraq is joining. Another person from Brazil, very nice. And India. And let's see, another person from Haiti. This is a very international group today. Love it. Okay. So back to the adverbs of degree. I would love to see maybe some of you type in the comments, maybe a sentence using the adverb as an intensifier or a moderator or a mitigator. Or if you guys have any questions, also feel free to type that into the comments. And just another announcement, if you missed it at the beginning, if you take a look at this banner right here, it says that you can download your free ebook with 2,000 English core words. And on the side, you can see that there's a little description of what it looks like. This will be really helpful. It's completely free. You just have to click the link in the description, and this is what you will get. Can you see it? Okay, so it's on my right side right here, and feel free to check that out, and it is completely free. Once again, just click the link and it will send you to the download, and then you can keep that for yourself and use it for whatever you'd like. Okay. So we have finished talking about adverbs of degree mostly. So I don't know if anyone wanted to comment anything. I don't see any examples, but if you would like to, feel free to send those into the comments. So the last little blurb that I have on this end part here is enough. So enough can be used as an adverb, or it can be used as a determiner, and I will explain both of those. Okay, so enough as an adverb, that usually appears after the adjective or adverb. So for example, I didn't study hard enough. So maybe you wanted to say, I didn't study hard, but it wasn't enough for something. Maybe I didn't study hard enough to pass my test. Maybe you're packing to move or something like that, and you got a box, but the box isn't big enough. So this box isn't big enough. Okay, and yes, I think somebody said that I didn't mention my name. I'm Daphne, in case you missed it at the beginning. So if you're curious how to spell that, sometimes people find it tricky, but it's D-A-P-H-N-E, Daphne. And if you've watched Scooby-Doo, there is a character, Daphne, from that cartoon, which was one of my favorite childhood shows. Okay, so now going back to enough. So I didn't study hard enough. This box isn't big enough. I am not good enough. Maybe you're feeling down on yourself. That's something you might say. Okay. And then we also have enough as a determiner. For example, here, where you use it as much, many as necessary. So it usually goes before the noun. And you can use it with countable or uncountable nouns, which would be a whole different other topic. But the example that I have on the board here, we have enough food. There aren't enough plates for all the guests. So maybe you have a big party and a lot of people are coming and you realize, oh no, we don't have enough plates for all the guests. And then the last example, we don't have enough money, which is a sentiment I think a lot of us constantly feel all the time. I feel it. Or maybe it could be for something specific. So I don't have enough money to buy this lovely new dress that I really want. Or I don't have enough money to go on the amazing vacation to Bali, something like that. So that's where you would use it as a determiner. So basically going before the noun and to mean as much, many as necessary. Okay, and I can see from the comments, somebody said, let me see, this coffee is very bitter. Yes, you can use it for a negative connotation. So bitter generally does not mean something positive. So when something's bitter, it kind of has a bad negative meaning to it. So if you were to say that it's very bitter, that means it is very bad maybe for you. Unless you love bitter coffee, then that's your prerogative as well. But yes, that's a great example. So that's to intensify the word bitter right here. So you can say it's extremely bitter. You can say it's too bitter. You can say it is very bitter, like in your example. And I do want to mention that to, the word to, sometimes tends to have a more negative connotation to it. So maybe if you're saying, she's very beautiful, then that means she's beautiful, but extremely in a positive way. But when you say she's too beautiful, that almost sounds like she's really beautiful, but there's something about it that makes it negative. So she's too beautiful. So when you choose which adverb of degree to use, just keep that in mind. And I see somebody said they're from India, from Brazil. Nice to meet you guys. Thanks for joining today's stream. And if, again, anyone has additional examples or questions that they would like to add, feel free to put that into the comments. So the question about very bitter coffee, that was great. And I know this might be a lot of information, but generally it'll come naturally. But yes, I would love to see as many examples as I can from you guys. If you would like to type that into the comments from Facebook, from YouTube, wherever. And don't worry if you guys aren't sure, or maybe you're a little bit on the fence about whether this is the right way to use it or if it's okay to use it like this, but just give it a try. I'd love to see. And somebody, I think, said I could say sufficient instead of enough. So sufficient, you could say, oh, that amount of studying was sufficient for me to pass my test. But if it wasn't, then that's when you would say, I didn't study hard enough, or I didn't study long enough, or I didn't study enough, period. Okay, so let me see. Did anyone send anything from Facebook? I don't see anything. I don't think so, at least. Maybe a couple of new people joined in a bit later. And let's see. Yes, if you guys, again, have questions. Ooh, I see someone gave an example, a negative meaning. So it's too hot. Yes. So hot, generally, I mean, some people like hot weather, but some people don't. But if it's too hot, then it has that connotation where it's something that's undesirable. So too much of something is not good. So it's too hot. And I would love to know what country you're from, because then maybe I will avoid them. Just kidding. In Japan right now, where I am, it is also hot. And sometimes in the summer, it does get too hot for me, at least. It's too humid, too sticky. But thank you for the person who decided to give an example on Facebook. That was lovely, wonderful, and a perfect example. We have enough time to study before the exam. Yes, another very good example. So, similar to maybe we have enough food, we have enough time. So maybe you realize your test or your exam is a month away and you start preparing a month in advance. So you have enough time to prepare, enough time to study for the exam. And that was another great example. Thank you for sending that into the comments, the person from Facebook. And someone also put another example on YouTube. Way too cold. Yes. So maybe if you're living in Japan, Hokkaido would be a very cold place. So in the winter, maybe it gets a little bit too much. So you might say, it's way too cold here. Or I'm sure those on the East Coast, maybe living in Boston during the winter, I would assume that it is unbearably cold. So you might say it's too cold. And again, that also has the connotation that it's not a good thing. It's a little bit undesirable because it's too much, but not in a way that is desirable. And that was a great example from YouTube. And thank you for inputting that into the comments. And so just going back to adverbs in general, let me give you some more examples overall. So when we want to add emphasis, the intensifier. So that's to make something more forceful, to give intensity, add emphasis. So that cake looks extremely delicious. So it's delicious, but it looks very delicious. Maybe that movie was epic, you might say, after finishing whatever movie it is in the theaters. I'm not sure what's going on, what's playing in theaters right now, but after you finish watching a movie, you might say, oh, that movie was epic. And then your friend who agrees and thinks it's extremely epic might say, oh, yes, that movie was very epic or extremely epic, totally epic. Another example of an intensifier would be after going maybe on the weekend. For those of you who are in college, you might go to parties. So after a party, you might say, oh, that party was wicked. That party was extremely wicked. So it was out of this world. It was just so great. And I know wicked, sometimes you might think, doesn't wicked mean negative? Isn't that a negative thing? But in the context of this sentence, that party was wicked, it's a positive thing. And then we have the moderators. So that would be quite, fairly, this, and that. There are other ones as well, but these are just the ones that I have on the board. So maybe she didn't expect the test to be this hard, or she didn't expect the test to be this difficult. And then maybe this example was she's not that pretty, but maybe somebody on the flip side says, oh, she's not really, she's kind of ugly. But if you're not agreeing, you might say, she's not that ugly, she's quite pretty. And then the last thing that we had was a mitigator, which is the opposite of an intensifier. So, for example, if you are very upset, but you don't want to make it seem like you're too upset, you might say, I'm rather upset, or maybe you're not feeling great, but you don't want to cause a lot of issue. You might say, I'm feeling slightly under the weather, or I'm feeling somewhat under the weather today. And so that's pretty much it for adverbs of degree. And again, feel free to continue to type things into the comments. Would love to see as many examples as you guys can give. And I'm happy that you guys were all able to join today's stream, and hopefully you learned something about adverbs of degree. And then if we are about to be finished, then just so that you guys can take a look at the board, maybe you want to screenshot all the information that I have here. Feel free to take a photo of that. Okay. And yes, okay, so hopefully you got a picture of all the necessary information that I have written on the board. And again, I'm blocking it, but hopefully you got it before. But yes, okay, so and if you missed it, maybe at the beginning or in the middle of this stream, please feel free to click this banner right here. It should be about here, and you can get a free download of an ebook with 2,000 core words. And on the side, you can see right here the 2,000 core words and phrases, and that would definitely be very helpful, and it's completely free, so feel free to click that right here in the description. And this is just a little preview about what you'll be getting. Okay, so that is pretty much it for today, and I'm glad that all of you guys can join for the stream from all different countries. I remember Brazil, Colombia, Haiti, people from the US. So hopefully I'll see you guys the next time. And that's it for today. See ya.